All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Cosmic Tea Time chat with myself, Kaitlyn, Psychic Moon Mentor. Today, I'm excited to bring you a story time and moon magic. So, if you don't already know, I am a Psychic Moon Mentor. I work a lot with the moon energy, which is all about self mastery and getting to know yourself and your cycles and your patterns of emotion, thought, and behavior. And today I am joined by another beautiful moon goddess, Kayleigh, the owner of Hecate's Garden. Kayleigh, would you please introduce yourself?
Hello. I am Kayleigh. I am the owner of Hecate's Garden. I'm also a medium, along with some spiritual guidance, that kind of thing. I really dabble a little bit in everything. A little bit of green or eclectic witchery, if you will. Um, I don't really know what else to.
That's okay. That's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah. And like so many of us, anyone watching live or watching the replay, I'm curious, when did you start your spiritual journey? Maybe you refer to it as a spiritual awakening. For me, it happened in 2017. But let us know in the comments, when did it happen for you? Have you been practicing for years? Or like so many, did you start during this sort of COVID time between 2020, 2021, and you started in this mist when we had to go within. We were sort of secluded and isolated a little bit. And I feel like a lot of us, our intuition really sparked and started screaming at us. And so we were really started to dive into spirituality and spiritual practice and what does that look like for me. Hecate's Garden came to be in towards the end of 2021. Is that right, Kayleigh?
Officially, that's whenever I started, and we became an official LLC November of 22. So it took us right about a year to get to LLC status, and we've been online the entire time. And we're officially going with a brick and mortar. We're getting ourselves a store.
Woohoo! Do you have a date for that, or is it still not
It's
100%?
not 100%. We have a goal set of actually having the store open by June of this year,
Okay, exciting.
but we're still kind of hunting around for locations.
The right place. Yeah.
Hmm.
Perfect. Yeah. And now, was this an idea you had for some time? I work with a lot of spiritual entrepreneurs, and sometimes they have an idea for like years and they're just sort of holding on to it and waiting for the right time and debating about getting training and all the things. But what was it like for you before actually opening Hecate's Garden?
Um, I got smacked in the face with it, basically. Uh, my spiritual awakening came pretty difficult. Um, January of 2022, I actually attempted suicide. So I had only been introduced to crystals and everything in November of 21. And I mean, I'd heard of them, but didn't really know much else about it. And a friend of mine who knew I was having, some mental distress had sent me a care package of crystals. And so in January, whenever I made my attempt, didn't luckily I made it through. Um, I got this urge to really get into the crystals, and one search led to another search, led to another search, led to me discovering that I'm a medium. So, I mean, I had plans and thoughts to open my own store as a bakery forever.
Okay.
Never ever would I have thought that this is the direction that I would be taking.
So entrepreneurship was sort of on the mind, but not necessarily holistic modalities and mediumship and what the heck. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that that was part of your journey, a suicide attempt. I haven't had an attempt, but I've definitely had suicide ideation, and so Anyone else live or catching the replay, my heart goes out to you. That's a really intense place to be. And
Yeah.
I've talked with people in the last couple years, certainly more so, where it was kind of almost a little bit like what you're describing, of where you're like sort of having the spiritual awakening, but then when we do, we're awakened to the things that we really need to clear out and
Yes.
heal and forgive. And depending on our life experience, that can be really fucking intense, and it can
Yeah.
drive us to this dark, dark place where we get there. So I hear you, and I feel you there.
Yeah. I finally, this might be a weird way to look at it, but I had a lot of trauma as a child, and with some of the like the light work research that I've done, light worker research, um, there are certain type of light workers that are sent specifically to have a lot of trauma experiences so that they can be the advocates and speak up for those who cannot. So I believe that that's why I went through that, to develop tough skin, but also a big heart.
Hmm. Yeah, to show up for those who can't or don't know, and it's hard to find their voice, or I've found too in my journey and talking with other spiritual entrepreneurs, to have these sort of periods of darkness and trauma, or what it might be, and it helps us know, like really know someone else's darkness and where they are. And like you said, to really have this big heart and compassion, so we can really come at it from a different place. And it's, I don't know if that's the right word, like easier for people to receive, but because they can feel our sincerity and our truth as we're showing up, right, in our gifts, as we sort of develop them and hone them and come to accept them.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I think I officially like, well, Hecate's Garden officially became because I want, and that has been my mission from the beginning, and it will never stop being my mission, is to help educate, um, not just, don't just focus on one type of spiritual, just the open generalization of spirituality, so people can know there's more out there than what we have been taught, traditionally taught. Because me finding that out, that there is a definitive something out there, I've literally seen it. There's something out there. Not even I know what it is per se, but it was so uplifting, and it renewed my hope, and I see the world in a completely different way now.
Hmm.
So I don't, those train of events just kind of had to happen, I think.
Yeah, and I think, at least for me, I can speak for myself, what I think brought me to suicide ideation and a darker place was part of that grieving and loss of self and loss of identity, or at least like a
Yeah.
big change, right? Of like, whoa, what's happening and where am I and who am I, and how do I show up in the world? Because what was once true is like, well, is that true? And it's sort of like a mind, like it really messes with your mind, which messes with your emotions and even like your physical health and well-being. So it can be really intense. And the one thing that helped me, I guess almost luckily, because I had been into moonology for a while and crystals for a while and holistic health modalities for a while, was that when I was in like the darkest of dark places, I kept telling myself, as dark as this is, as much as this hurts right now, the exact opposite of this is true. The exact opposite of this is possible, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
I just have to hold on for just like a few moments, and it's going to move and it's going to shift. And that's what I love about learning about the moon and her phases, because she can sort of help teach you, right? Because each phase has a particular energy and emotions
Yeah.
and thought patterns that come up with each phase. And so it can help you recognize that within yourself and know, like, okay, this is where I am right now, but okay, this is what's coming next. This is what comes after that. So it can help you find hope again. So if anyone can vibe with that, drop hope in the comments.
Definitely.
So how did you first start sensing your gifts, or like intuition, or what was that like for you?
Oddly enough, I knew whenever I was really little that something was off. And my parents would always tell me, I mean, they really, kids do have great imaginations. I'm sure they probably were like, oh, okay. But, it was my imagination. I have creative thinking, this, that, and the other. But I knew what I was seeing and I knew what I was hearing. And so I kind of pushed it down forever and ever because you're not supposed to be able to do that. And then I made the mistake of telling a psychiatrist about that. And I've been on medication. I've even been diagnosed as much as being schizophrenic,
Mm.
um, because I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know. And I was just telling them I'm seeing and hearing things. And you're not supposed to be able to do that. So then started reading tarot. And um, while I was reading tarot one day, because I mean, this has been still fairly recent within the last 6 months that this happened when I realized that I'm a medium. And I was doing a tarot read for someone, and I kept hearing a name over and over in my ear. And it was the first time that I had heard any of that since I was a kid. So it caught me off guard. And then I asked her if she knew anyone with that name, and she starts bawling her eyes out. It was her husband. And so it was kind of like once I opened up that gate with him, everyone else came through too. But
Yeah.
I think they've been there the whole time. It's just I had blocked it.
Hmm.
I had blocked
Yeah,
it.
yeah, and we do that to protect ourselves. We do that because it's unfamiliar, because maybe we don't know anyone who openly expresses that in the world. And I'm curious too, for those of you live and those of you catching the replay, do you find yourself to be intuitive? What do you identify as? Intuitive, empathic, sensitive? I'm so curious. And also, right, what gifts do you feel like are the strongest, right? So there's clairsentience. So clairs are like the psychic gifts or like your extra senses. So clairsentience is feeling, which that's one of my stronger senses. I can emotionally feel what others are feeling. I can physically feel what others are feeling. And you can just drop feeling in the comments if you resonate with that. Do you sort of hear things? And sometimes it sounds like something else. It sounds like someone else's voice, but sometimes it sounds like our own thoughts in our head.
Yeah.
Another way I look at it too is like songs, like messages can come through in songs. Like I hear that as clairaudience. So is it hearing for you? Drop that in the comments. What else? We've got vision, right? So clairvoyance, that's a popular one most people know about. And it can be being very visual and seeing things in your mind's eye, or maybe actually physically seeing spirits, apparitions, orbs, auras, etc. But it could just be that you're like a vivid daydreamer or like very creative and artistic. That can show up. You can drop vision in the comments for that. Let's see what else is there. Claircognizance, which is one of my stronger ones. So that's clear knowing, right? Clear just means clear. And so that can just come to be like, I don't know. I find this happens a lot of times in conversation, and you'll be talking with someone and then like some knowledge just sort of pops in and you're like, I don't know how I know that. Like I didn't study it or anything, but it just sort of comes through. That's an interesting one. So drop knowing in the comments if that's you. What else is there, Kayleigh? I feel like I'm leaving some out.
There's clairgustance and one more. It's I just can't remember what they're called, but it's the seeing and the tasting and the smelling.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, tasting.
Mhm.
or smelling, which you've probably heard about. A lot of people describe this when loved ones have crossed over and they're like, "Ooh, like I smell them. Oh, that smells just like my grandpa and his pipe," or what it might be. So drop that in the comments. I'd be so curious to know what everyone out there, sort of how they tune in and what they pick up on. And so you started recognizing this, and then you got curious about it. You sort of opened up to it, and then it came like flooding in, which often happens, which can also be scary, right? Because it can be a lot at once, and it can be new and intimidating. And so, do you use that now in your work, or is it still something mostly used like for yourself and people you know?
I use it in my work. Yeah, I think actually, that's part of my purpose. Well, I do a lot of automatic writing anyway,
Yes.
and I love automatic writing. If you haven't tried automatic writing, give it a shot. It's wild once you get into it and then you look back at the page and you literally see different handwriting than your own, and you're like, "Oh,
Like, whoa, yeah.
what the heck?" But it's so amazing at the same time. But I had asked my purpose, and my purpose is healing and teaching. And part of the healing process to me is educating people on the different types of clairs and letting them know that they are their own power and you can take back what you think that you've lost. And I am very big into helping to lift victims up. So, part of the proceeds that Hecate's Garden makes will be going to local women's shelters and like sexual abuse places, advocates and stuff like that. That's huge to me.
Yes, yes. I knew there was a reason we connected. Yes, that is a very big mission and purpose of mine too, of like, you are your own
Yes.
healer. Like for me, I see it as I'm reflecting back to you your strengths and your power, and I'm celebrating you in it. But really, like it's yours. Like it's not mine. I'm not giving it to you. I'm just open to seeing it and witness it and holding space. So hopefully you can see it and connect with it and like
Yes.
rise up. I can't tell you how many women and healers I've spoke with who, like yourself, they didn't know anyone growing up who had gifts or could see things or hear things and communicate with, this energy beyond our physical human form. And they're telling me about what they can see and hear. And I'm just like in awe, like, oh my God, you're amazing. Like, holy crap. Like, yes, believe that. But for them, it was like hush hush sort
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah. I mean, my family, it runs in my family, but it was definitely one of those where you don't talk about it. Like, and then now that I'm older, they're like, "Oh no, yeah, I see them too," or "Yeah, this," like I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah, I had this experience
you had
or
told me before I
whatever.
was
Yeah.
medicated for it." Yeah, like
Right. Like, why did you let that happen? Yeah. Mm.
yeah.
So, how did the name come to be for Hecate's garden?
Well, I started my business as Live with Intention because everything is about
Okay.
intention. And then it went to Hecate's Garden because a couple of my really good friends actually, um, the three of us together had kind of stumbled upon in our spiritual journeys. We were all looking at different points in our lives, but looking for the same kind of thing. You know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
something. And stumbled upon Hecate, more like she had called, if you will.
Mm.
And she had called me, and then I started teaching them about her. And then we started doing rituals together, like moon rituals, because she represent, the phases of the moon and everything. And we do dedications to her. We do our altars are set up to her. Um, and I mean, I don't know if everyone knows, but she's definitely, I mean, she's known as the goddess of witchcraft, of course, but she's also the gatekeeper, the key holder, the protector of women and children. She's definitely the protector of the underdog. She is literally everything that I hope to represent.
Mm, I love that. Yeah, and it's so interesting. Usually something finds
Mm,
us when we're ready for it, right? It starts, I think it starts with a certain
yeah,
curiosity. And then that's why I'm always telling people, like, follow your curiosity. Like, that is your intuition speaking to you. And so it's like, okay, like for me with angels, like I don't know a lot about goddesses, I don't know a lot about angels necessarily, but for me, when I got started, I meditated and was open to, okay, like who are my angels? Who are some of my main angels that are around working with me? And I meditated and some names came through, Michael and Raphael. And at the time I'm like, okay, I don't know what that is, but okay, I hear that. Let me look into it a little bit. And when I did, it made perfect sense because I've always been very
right,
sensitive and like all about physical health and wellness. But like we've been talking about, right? Like you have your power, your body knows how to heal itself, but do you know how to work with your body? And so Archangel Michael is a protector. He works with healers and sensitives. Archangel Raphael works a lot with health and wellness and a lot of physical healing, among other things. But yeah, so let us know, guys, whether you're here live or catching the replay, like what is something you've been curious about to start to dive into? Is it Reiki? Is it crystals? Is it an angel or maybe a name of an angel? Feel free to drop those because, like I said, there's so many. I certainly don't know them all, but I'd be so curious to know who does. And so, with Hecate's garden, what is, I don't know, what is one of your favorite things so far that you've been able to share with people?
um, I don't even, um,
Hard to pick one. I know it's a tough question. It's hard to pick one
I
thing.
think it's really just the ability to teach them that there's more. One of the big things,
And trust
yeah, which speaking of archangels, Raziel is actually who led me to Hecate.
that.
And
Okay.
Raziel, I don't believe is in the King James version, but he is like the angel of mystics. And
Okay.
then I got led to Archangel Ariel, who, we know, but Ariel and I work together a lot. He, Hecate, and I. And then, of course, my ancestors and so on and so forth are make up my spirit guides. But Ariel and Hecate are definitely the loudest, but Raziel kind of took the back seat once those two popped in. But I love
Okay.
it.
Very
But
cool.
sorry, yeah, back to the teaching thing. Just letting people know that there's more. So normally, when I do a medium read, what I'll do is once they have that, no, there's no way you could know that. Those are
Yeah.
my favorite. Once they have that reaction, or even if that doesn't happen, I'll ask them at the end of the call, like before we end our call today, how certain are you that there is more out there? And most of the
Mm,
time, they're like, now 100%. Like, most of the time, I still have, because you get the skeptic, or,
of course. Yeah.
um, but skeptics are kind of my favorite too, because,
Yeah, because they get the bigger, like, mind blown moment. Like, there is no way in hell. How did you
yeah,
know that? And you're like, I don't know. For me, I'm always like, you told me. Like, I'm just reading your energy. That's literally the only source I'm like getting it from. So,
yeah, there's, that actually, okay, I don't know if you've ever heard of remote viewing.
I've heard of it.
Okay,
Yes.
awesome. A lot of people don't know what it is. As I mentioned, I had kind of got started doing tarot, and I had just recently figured out the medium thing, and so I do lives on my private group on different nights, and I'll either do a free 10-minute medium read with someone or pull a tarot card for them or whatever. So I had been doing a quick medium read for someone, and then I was like, "Are you sitting next to something green? Are you sitting near something that looks like a triangle? Are you do?" And she's like, "Yes, yes. How do you know that?" Like, and I thought at the time that it was spirits showing me, like, that's them letting me know that
Mm.
they're there. And then they told me, "No, that's you literally putting yourself in that person's house.
Mm.
So I am able to sit here in my kitchen and with permission, because that's the only way I'll do it. With permission,
Yeah.
I'll, enter whoever's home and I'll describe the layout of the house to, validate to them that it's real. I'm not just having you, like, yeah, but I'll describe the layout.
I'm not just saying things. I'm not just talking
Yeah.
here. Yeah.
And then I can remote in and I can see if there's any spirits present in the house. I've had people request that I um, remove a demon from their home. I've done that. Um,
Mhm.
I've had them most of the time when they're hearing the bumps in the night. It's a grandparent or a parent
Mm.
or an uncle. I've had an uncle. It happens. Most of the time, they're
Yeah.
harmless, but I think it's just
Right. Yeah. That's what I was gonna say. Most of the time they're harmless, but it's kind of unsettling because you're like, ooh, I don't know what that is, and yeah, it's a little
yeah, and
scary.
usually if you get that sense, like, if you get a sense that that sound came from something not here, you're right, it did.
Right.
99% of the time, you heard what you heard.
Or felt
Yeah,
it. Right. It could be a feeling. Like, ooh, I feel like someone's watching me right now, or oh, I feel like someone's standing over there. Like I don't see it, but I can
yeah,
feel that.
it's usually
Okay.
correct.
So clairvoyance must be strong for you. I don't know. That's sort of what I put. I feel like what you're describing is an extension of like astral travel or
Yeah,
astral projection, right? When we sort of move our spirit body to another place. Um,
yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, yeah. I always find it interesting how different gifts show up and how unique it can be in its expression in each
The
one of us.
mediumship, which the clairs, like I've always known about, like, that I had premonitions and stuff, like I've known that, and I've told I don't even know how many people that they're pregnant. And they're like, "No, I'm not." And they go home and take a test and they're like I got them. No, I was not a part of that. You did that. But the really cool thing that I've learned with my mediumship is there's not a clair that I know of that I don't have. I can
Mm.
I've had people where I'm doing a read with them and I'm like, "Are you drinking lemonade?" And they're like, "How do you know that?" I don't know either. This is new to me too. Or I can taste what they're eating, that kind of thing. And it's over
Mhm.
the phone. I don't have to be in person with them. But if you're in person, it's obviously stronger because you're in their space. You're actually picking up
Yeah.
their energy. So it's definitely easier to do those types of things in person.
And do you have workshops where individuals can learn to hone in on their clairs and sort of strengthen them and develop their trust in their extra
I
senses?
do that now, like on an individual basis. I do coach some people.
Okay.
When we open our store, that's actually going to be one of the big things that we do is work on clear classes, because I think that knowing that, even because a lot of us have suspicions, I believe that we might be clairvoyant or clear something. I think a lot of us are like, "Oh, that's weird. I know exactly what that person was thinking," or something like that. But I think
Mm.
in learning and getting validated that that is what's happening is huge in finding out your own power, because you're like, I can do that. And at first, you kind of feel
Mm.
like a superhero, and
Hmm.
then you're like, oh, this is real life. So I think a lot of us are after validation anyway, and what better type of validation to get
Mhm.
than to know that you have a gift, like a genuine, true
Yeah.
gift.
Certainly in the start, and certainly if we don't know a lot of other people who can do it. That's sort of a pattern that I've noticed, right? That's why I always encourage people follow your
Yes.
curiosity, right? Get a consistent practice, right? Whether it's meditating or it can change every day, but meditating, yoga, anything that helps you connect with your own energy, chanting, affirmations, taking care of
Yep.
you, getting to know your own energy, and then in some way, shape, or form, I think it's helpful to connect with other people who can do it, whether it's a mentor, an online community, or physical, community and space of people who can relate to you and can validate you and be like, oh, yeah, I can do that too. That's a
Yeah.
real thing.
Yeah, it's definitely nice, especially whenever, I mean, you might be new to something, and like we've said, you kind of get started, you don't stop, like you keep diving in and going down further down the rabbit hole, because once you start learning
Mhm.
about this, they might mention something about this, and then you're like, okay, well, what's that? And then, like,
Mhm.
at least that's how I am. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm the same way. Yeah, if it catches my eye, stands out to me, I'm like, okay, I see you. I'm gonna investigate a little bit more. Yeah, beautiful. Yay. Well, I want to respect everyone's time and everything, but what is the name of your private Facebook group? Do you want to share that, or how can people connect with you?
they can go Facebook/Hecate's Garden 3, the number 3. That's my public page. And I try to participate and educate and everything on that page. And there's promotionals. Um, and we will keep updates on the store on that page as well.
Perfect. And do you have any offers or anything that a way that people can start working with you right
Yeah,
now?
if anyone is interested in a read, they can contact me through Messenger on that Facebook page, and I'm doing $20 medium reads right now.
All right, beautiful. And with the replay, I'll make sure to post all of Kayleigh's links so you can get in touch with her if you would like. And for myself, if you're looking for that spiritual community, if you're looking to dive in deeper to a spiritual practice and maybe even go that next step and put it out into the world and start showing up in service and healing or in serving in some way, shape, or form, I'd like to invite you into Own Mastermind, which is a group program where we're going to balance spirituality with these practical steps to get you to hone in on your energy, own your gifts, own your passion and your desire, and help you create your vision to show up in service in the world and make a freaking impact, right? Just like
Yes.
Hecate's Garden. Hell yes. Because that curiosity, that vision of yours is yours for a reason, and no one else is meant to do it but you. So I would love to support you in developing trust in yourself and working with other spiritual entrepreneurs and people who are in that same boat so they can understand and validate you and help promote you and help you rise this year and activities like Kayleigh and I are doing today and beyond. So you can drop own in the comments if you're interested for more details. Otherwise, follow me for any moon magic and mystical things. But yeah, thank you, Kayleigh, so much for joining me today. I have a feeling this is going to be one of many collaborations that we're going to do together.
I
This
would
was a
love
lot of
to.
fun today.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, happy moon manifesting, everyone.
Bye.